I'm Christine Pedawanich with your weekly recap, where we'll be catching you up on some of the biggest stories of the week. We begin with an investigation out of Seaside involving police who shot and killed a double homicide suspect there Wednesday night. The suspect has been identified as 24-year-old Hayes McLeod. According to the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, McLeod was suspected of killing a 35-year-old male acquaintance and another man at 2 locations. Seaside police officers found McLeod a little after 6 o'clock Wednesday evening inside his car on Sunset Boulevard. Officers say when they approached, McLeod fired at them, and officers from Gearhart and Cannon Beach Police fired back. McLeod drove away but was found dead shortly after, crashed into a fence outside a housing complex.
I came out and saw rows and rows and rows of policemen, police people with coming out of their vehicles with these big old guns and just heading down there.
When I saw that vehicle racing up the hill here towards the property and me, because I wasn't far away, I knew something else was transpiring really quickly. First instinct was get the heck out of the way and go somewhere else and let people know around me that what's happening.
Oregon State Police is investigating the shooting, and the officers who fired their guns will be placed on administrative leave. No one else was hurt. And a woman's death has now been ruled a homicide 30 years later. Back in 1993, a medical examiner determined Astrid Bridges' death was an accident. But this week, investigators announced they'd taken a new look at evidence. At the time, Astrid's husband had said his wife fell off a ladder while cleaning the gutters. Gresham Police Detective Adam Wright says they'll use technology that wasn't available in 1993, including DNA advances. They're also partnering up with investigators from the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office and using resources funded by a recently passed police and fire levy.
Whether it's a day after a crime happened or 30 years later, those small pieces, things that may seem insignificant, are stuff we will work to build into a bigger piece of the puzzle.
Investigators say it is rare for accidental deaths to later be ruled homicides, let alone for it to happen 3 decades later. Anyone with information should contact the Gresham Police Department. And in an update, the man accused of killing a Portland area nurse while she was vacationing in Hungary has been sentenced for her murder. Hungarian authorities arrested a 37-year-old Irish citizen 2 days after Kenzie Michalski went missing. Police say she met the man at a nightclub and they left together to his rented apartment. That man, only identified as LTM, denied the crime at first, but eventually confessed to strangling her and led authorities to her body. Thursday, a Hungarian court sentenced Kenzie's killer to 14 years in prison. And now to the Arabian Sea, where the Navy suspended the search for a sailor from Oregon on board a Navy helicopter that crashed. Alma McCarty has more details on the search.
The U.S. Navy only said the helicopter made an emergency landing on July 1st, somewhere in the Arabian Sea, stressing there's no indication that the emergency was caused by hostile action. Commander Gabriel Edwards was the commanding officer of Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 5, and after 4 days of continuous search, the Navy suspended that effort to look for him.
Remembered as a husband, father, friend, and fearless leader, the U.S. Navy identified Commander Gabriel Edwards as the sailor missing after a helicopter made an emergency landing in the Arabian Sea. Edwards, from Oakland, Oregon in Douglas County, was the commanding officer of Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 5 aboard the USS George H.W. Bush aircraft carrier. On July 1st, 3 of the 4 crew members on board Edwards' helicopter were recovered and are listed as stable. But after 102 hours of searching across 14,000 square miles, the Navy said they suspended search and rescue operations on Sunday. Edwards' wife, Rebecca, sharing in part, "We are profoundly grateful to every sailor, aviator, and airman who devoted countless hours, extraordinary skill, and unwavering determination in the effort to bring Gabe home. We find comfort in knowing that Gabe lived a life of extraordinary purpose, devoted to his country, his squadron, and above all, the family he loved so completely." Oregon Senator Ron Wyden writing, "I know I join with many here in Oregon and all over America honoring Navy Commander Gabriel Edwards' service to our country and thinking of his wife and 2 children. This Oregon hero will not be forgotten."
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
His family's in our thoughts. Well, closer to home, Portland police were kept busy over the 4th of July holiday weekend. Officers last Saturday responded to a downtown protest along with multiple shootings and reports of street takeover attempts. Police also say they cleared drivers who stopped on the Markham Bridge to try to catch the fireworks.
Definitely a resource strain is folks stopping on the Markham Bridge to watch the fireworks. We certainly discourage people from stopping on a major interstate to watch fireworks, but we had a number of cars stop on the freeway, and so that required us to send resources up there. And what this highlights for me is the importance to recognize the role of police in the public safety system.
Police say extra staffing likely helped prevent more violence. Officers also helped reunite a lost 4-year-old boy who got separated from his family during all the festivities at Waterfront Park. A woman is dead and 4 other people are recovering after a boat crash on the Willamette River near Sauvie Island. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says this 33-foot boat crashed into an aluminum walkway leading to a dock just before 11:30 the night of the 4th. First responders found 1 woman dead at the scene, while 4 other adults, including the boat's operator, were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators are now looking into what exactly caused the crash. And also on the 4th, multiple people were taken to the hospital with significant injuries after Salem police say an explosion from an illegal firework went off in a neighborhood. The explosion shattered windows and woke people up Saturday night. The Salem Fire Department says the blast came from an illegal mortar. 3 men and 2 women between the ages of 34 and 67 were hurt.
I see my car, the glass is all shattered. I'm like, oh man, well that sucks. But then I see people like being taken away in the ambulance. And I'm like, oh, what's going on?
According to Salem police, 6 cars and 1 house were also damaged in the explosion that sent debris just flying 80 yards from the blast site. The police department is investigating and will be working with the DA's office to determine if charges will be filed. And on the coast, police in Lincoln City say 8 people are facing charges after fireworks sparked a fire near a residential area. It closed roads and prompted some level 1 be ready evacuations. Firefighters worked for hours to contain the flames, with crews sticking around to monitor hotspots. And now to an ongoing story in southeast Portland. A property owner is dealing with tens of thousands of tires illegally dumped on his land. While that investigation plays out, our Catherine Cook takes us inside the country's largest tire recycler.
It's Wednesday afternoon, and the crew at Liberty Tire Recycling in North Portland is processing a fresh load of used tires. First, trained eyes pick out tires they can sell as used. Next, special equipment extracts wire and fiber, then shreds the rubber, accounting for toxic chemicals. What's left ends up on sports fields, playgrounds, or sold off as fuel, leaving as little as possible for landfills.
The work we do is inherently dirty and hard.
Joe Stewart, Liberty's regional VP, says they process over 3,200 tons of tires each month at this Portland site alone.
Most of the work that we do is out in the community, picking up tires from large retailers and bringing them back here for processing.
The cost to consumers? About $5 a tire. For commercial operations, it's $500 a ton. But Stewart knows not everyone is following the rules. Take this illegal tire dump in southeast Portland. Metro and the sheriff's office are investigating who's behind it. There are other smaller ones too. Metro says they've seen an increase. Over the last year, its RID patrol collected more than 14,000 tires from illegal dumps. The reasons behind them vary, though Stewart believes some may come from illegal tire collecting operations.
The folks who are typically charging those cheaper rates, maybe they are not processing the tires and they're just tossing them in a field somewhere or in somebody's property.
Tires that are dumped in our environment have the potential to leach chemicals into our soil, into our groundwater. They're a fire hazard. They can be breeding grounds for mosquitoes.
Jennifer Powers is Metro's Waste Prevention Outreach Manager. Their transfer stations also accept used tires, up to 15 per day per customer, with rates on par with Liberty.
Our bottom line is that illegally dumping tires is not the solution.
Back at Liberty, the work continues.
They have to go somewhere. We have to do something with them.
A constant stream of tires that isn't slowing down. In North Portland, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Now, Metro says lately they've received fewer reports of large tire dumps, which would be between 400 to 1,000 tires, but they've got more reports of smaller ones. Redevelopment plans for a former flour mill along the Willamette have once again stalled. Video shows Portland police clearing squatters out of the Centennial Mills building last month. One person was arrested. The mill has sat abandoned for decades, but a Vancouver-based developer and business owner, James Casper, wants to turn part of the property into a nightclub and restaurant. But meetings with the city have him thinking otherwise.
Resistance, resistance, resistance. It's like they're anti-business. It's just unrealistic expectations of the city that I grew up in. They red tape the hell out of business owners.
He says the city would require him to stay 50 feet from the river, put restrictions on using the first floor, and build a parking garage. A spokesperson from the city of Portland told us in part, quote, redeveloping a long vacant historic waterfront industrial property like Centennial Mills is inherently complex. We understand that meeting these requirements as part of the permit process can feel challenging. Casper, meantime, says he is now taking his vision outside of Multnomah County. Portland City Council has started the clock on the Lloyd Center's final days. This week, city councilors denied appeals from those trying to save the shopping mall and upheld the Design Commission's master plan to demolish and rebuild the site. For small businesses inside the mall and for ice skaters on the rink, there has been a real effort to save what they consider a valued community asset. The Save Lloyd Ice Coalition has spent the past 5 months advocating to preserve the rink.
We have coaches, we have students, we have adult skaters. We have a lot of people in the community that use this space because it's the most accessible rink in Portland. Well, they denied the appeal. We kind of expected that. It's understandable.
Councilors say they understand how much people want to save the rink, but they decided 10-0 to uphold the master plan to redevelop the Lloyd Center into mixed-use housing, along with 6 acres of parks, plazas, and public space. The property's owner says they're eager for the next chapter. The planned closure of the mall is now under a month away on August 8th. And speaking of city council, 2 local unions now dropping their endorsements of Councilor Mitch Green over his opposition to major public projects they say would create hundreds of jobs. Councilor Green says he supports union jobs, but is putting the city's long-term financial health first. This week, IBEW Local 48 and Ironworks Local 29 cited Green's opposition to 2 large projects, the Bull Run Water Filtration Facility and the Moda Center renovation. Councilor Green says raising money for the water facility would double people's water bills. And back in February, Councilor Green showed public support for renovating the Moda Center, saying it would create good-paying jobs. But now he's rallied against using public dollars to fund the project.
I'm not opposed to a redevelopment of this project, but I am opposed to a blank check approach with little to no negotiation to frankly increase the value of a team for a billionaire at a time when Portlanders are dealing with an affordability crisis.
In a statement, one union rep wrote, quote, "It is disheartening to see someone who talks about care and understanding for working people decide to use their power and public trust to actively undermine union members' livelihoods." Well, a little more than a week into the job, the Beaverton School District's new superintendent is now sharing some of his priorities for this coming school year. Dr. Tony Smith talked one-on-one with our Libby Dowsett about his plans for his first 100 days and is already facing parents who are upset over a school that recently closed.
We are here at Beaverton's newest school, Raleigh Hills Elementary. It opens in the fall and will have many of the students that come from McKay Elementary, which closed this year due to declining enrollment. The other half of students from McKay, from the opposite side of Highway 217, will attend Greenway Elementary this fall, a disappointment for many parents.
It's sad that the neighborhood schools are going and all of these children are going to be into, great big schools and not have this connection that these kids had going all the way through together.
Beaverton's new superintendent, Dr. Tony Smith, tells us closing schools is always a last resort, and he understands the grieving process. He says his former district in Denver had to close 16 schools while he was deputy superintendent.
Understanding that nobody wants to close a school, the situations are, though, pretty clear. Declining enrollment, a loss of revenue. This is where I think we're going to have to make some tough decisions and do what's best for our kids at the end of the day.
Smith says the supportive reaction from the McKay school community actually drew him to Oregon.
What attracted me to Beaverton was the idea that the school, McKay, was so in tune with who they were and what the needs of their kids were that they volunteered to be the one school that closed.
Along with the McKay school closure, the district says it's been forced to slash 159 full-time positions. Smith wasn't able to confirm the exact amount of the district's current deficit, which was previously estimated at $30 million. As for any changes he plans to make this coming school year.
I would be remiss to speak about it too early because my goal is to look, listen, and learn. And so the more I look at, listen to, and learn about Beaverton, the better I am situated to make decisions when those tough conversations come about.
Dr. Smith says he'll take about 100 days to meet teachers, students, and staff before making any major decisions. He says it takes some time to get to know a district. In Beaverton, Libby Dowsett, KGW News.
And if you're a gin fan, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but Aviation American Gin has closed its distillery and visitor center in Northwest Portland. Its parent company, beverage giant Diageo, says it's been moving production out since late last year. Aviation was founded by two Portlanders in 2006 and backed by actor Ryan Reynolds. A spokesperson says they decided to close the Portland location on Northwest Wilson because of, quote, evolving business needs. And another closure to tell you about involving one of Portland's oldest restaurants. A sign on the Leaky Roof pub in the Goose Hollow neighborhood says, quote, until further notice, the Leaky Roof will no longer be open. In a message to KGW, the owners blamed rising costs, a drop in foot traffic, and over-regulation from the city of Portland. The Leaky Roof started as a food cart in the 1940s and moved to its current location on Southwest Jefferson in 1947. And have you heard about the president's plan to build a massive arch in D.C.? Well, there is a Portland connection. Federal records show the National Park Service awarded engineering and design firm OTAC a contract worth up to $500,000. In an email, the company tells us it is not involved in design or construction. Instead, it says it's helping the Park Service document the arch's impact on historic sites and reviewing compliance paperwork. The project has received opposition from preservation groups, veterans, and Congress. Critics argue the 250-foot arch would obstruct views and it needs congressional approval. The Portland Trail Blazers asking you to design the shirt that fans will be wearing during their home opener for the 2026-27 season. There are some rules, though. The theme must answer the question, what does Rip City Runs Deep mean to you? And you can only use up to 3 colors. Submissions are due before midnight on July 31st. For more details, head to the website on your screen. That is nba.com/blazers/motashirt. Now here's a look at your weather.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Chris McGinnis. We are in the stretch of our driest weather of the year, right? And it's probably no surprise as we get into July and August, Portland just does not get much rainfall. So with that in mind, I wanted to show you this. Historically, July and August, we average 1 inch of rain, or a little over 1 inch of rain for those 2 months combined. That's it, all together for the 31 days of July and August, so 62 days in any given year. And there are many years that we do far less than that. So the point is that we are smack dab here in the middle of our dry season. And to further illustrate that, the last significant rain that we had at PDX was June 27th. And by June standards, picking up more than 1/4 of an inch of rain is substantial. But again, it's been going on 2 weeks since that. And there's no sign of significant rain in the forecast over the next 16 days either. This is a look at the American GFS model. This now runs through July 25th. The color code on here represents areas of precipitation. So this is cumulative precipitation over 16 days. You can see the East Coast gets lots of showers and thunderstorms, monsoon moisture across the Intermountain West, so there will be scattered days with thunderstorms there and rain offshore, but nothing here in the Pacific Northwest outside of the slight chance of maybe some cascade showers or maybe a rumble of thunder that pops up 1 or 2 days over the next 16 days. So the point is we are really into the dry season now. And we bring that up because fires are starting to pop, especially across eastern Oregon. So with the hot, dry weather, we need to be really careful with anything that could set a spark. Okay, all that said, the weekend forecast is slightly cooler as we go to Saturday. You've probably heard the stories about the oppressive, just brutal heat that's been gripping parts of the country through the East Coast and lately this weekend, as we go into this weekend and early next week, through the Intermountain West and the Northern Rockies. But the pattern has been lately to have low pressure drop out of the Gulf of Alaska, thicken the marine layer for us here in the Northwest, and keep that heat at bay. There are some signs as we go into early next week. You see this ridge here? That's the center, the core of the really hot weather, the heat dome, if you will, out over the Northern Rockies. This is on Monday. A piece of that tries to flex to the west here on Monday and Tuesday. So there's a chance that we could be flirting with the 90-degree mark here in Portland on Monday and Tuesday. Certainly eastern Oregon, Washington, Idaho are going to get quite a bit warmer as we go towards the tail end of our weekend and the start of next week. That ridge buckles down a little bit and then it flexes again as we get towards the end of next week. The GFS model has this little low spinning offshore, but that looks like it's going to drop south and westward. And if that does, that would allow high pressure to build back in. So pay attention towards the tail end of our 7-day forecast and into next weekend, as it looks like we could start to get a little bit hot here in the Northwest. But for now, our weekend forecast is picture perfect. Saturday, of course, we'll have widespread morning cloud cover. How soon that burns off will obviously have a great impact on how warm we get. I've got us at 77 on Saturday and 81 degrees on Sunday. And your 7-day forecast looks really good here. Again, Monday, Tuesday look like 2 days that could be quite warm. We're on the border between upper 80s and near 90. Right now, we'll call it 88 both days. A slight cool down Wednesday, and then looking beyond the range of our 7-day forecast. So as we get into say next Friday and next weekend, there are some models suggesting 90-degree heat plus could be building into the Pacific Northwest. So stay tuned on that.
And that's a wrap on your weekly recap. I'm Christine Pitawanich. Remember, you can catch up on the latest headlines anytime on KGW.com, your KGW app, or our YouTube channel.